Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sonali Krishna, and this is a special showing from the south of France. And this is a brand equity special. It's been one hell of a hectic week. The sun, the sand, the rosé, and the outburst of creativity and tech this year was just unparalleled. It's been a meeting after 3 years in terms of the reunion of the global creative fraternity, and it's just been stellar. The energy has been so palpable, and I am honored to be sitting in the south of France with the industry captains, and we're going to be talking about some of the best work that we saw winning in Cannes, and of course where the industry is headed in the medium and long term. So welcome everybody, thank you so much. I'm going to dive straight in. I'll start with you, Samir. You've been part of the Global Creative Effectiveness Jury, so you've had the privilege to actually look at some of the global work that's been submitted here. Give me your first observations on, the kind of new work that you're seeing and the kind of needle the creativity is moving in the market.
So one thing is we're coming out clearly. It is not enough for brands to just talk about things, but they have to do it. It's not enough to just do business, but they have to do much more. So it's more like the triple bottom line approach. You have to do well for the brand. You have to do well for society. You have to do well for the environment. If you look at the winning Grand Prix, that's exactly what it did. And a lot of the other work is in that line. So that is one thing which is coming out. The second trend...
Samir, I want to stop you there. Yeah. When you say winning Grand Prix, for my audience, talk a little bit about it so that, they have a better understanding.
Yeah. So this is about a beer which, in America, which went down to farmers, encouraged them to grow organic grain. For that, to go organic takes 3 years. So they supported the farmers for those 3 years so that there was enough supply of organic grain so the beer could be made in the right manner and the right ingredients. The other thing which it does, because they changed their supply chain, and this was communication to the farmers and then to the consumers, was that the same supply chain can be used by their competition. So it is not just change which they are creating for their business and getting an advantage. Right. In years to come, even industry across not only beer but also breakfast foods and etc. can also take advantage of that supply chain and grow their businesses. So it is about making change more fundamental and more and there's more commitment from the organization, the brand, to deliver on the same.
I wanted to grow organic for years, but I just couldn't take the financial risks.
Contract for Change is a program to help farmers who've never grown organic barley before begin the transition. It provides technical support, transitional premiums, and that long-term purchase guarantee.
So they not only help us transition in with putting up money, once we're transitioned in and we're organic, they guarantee they're going to buy our product. That is really important.
Many growers hadn't thought about growing organic until the Contract for Change opportunity. It's a big financial risk for farmers to take on organic farming.
I still am in the transition process, but it's been working out very well. I would be happy if other farmers joined in.
We're excited to be moving beyond barley also that we can expand the impact, which will allow all Americans to have more organic food and drinks on their table.
It's just not the farmers that benefit. It helps the consumers, it helps us all.
I understand, brands have to do good for their business and good for society. But in a market like ours, do you think a consumer really cares? Or we are still in the zone where we're looking at being, the best discount, the best price, and we're not that bothered about society simply because our evolution stage is very different?
See, Sonali, when you look at consumers and you look at consumers below a certain age, consumers below 25, we've seen data and we've seen it qualitatively. Their concern on the environment, they are concerned to be anti-plastic, their concerns are much, much higher. They've been taught from school. So it's a different generation which is coming up. And this is a generation which is also very committed to their causes and they're ready to vote with their wallets. The second thing is, you might say that are people ready to pay a premium? They might not be ready to pay a premium, but if there were two brands and one brand was sustainable, the other was not, all other things being equal, probability is very high the sustainable brand would win. So the revolution is happening as we speak.
Okay.
And companies and brands which get onto this and do it in a proper manner are going to win, are going to be winners for the future. So that's what I think is telling us.
Fair enough. Prasoon, I'll come to you next. Firstly, many congratulations on your win with the project you did to empower rural women. Talk a little bit about that campaign for my audience, and give me your observations of Can 22. All the people that I've spoken to in terms of global marketers and global agency folk and network heads, I think are focusing a lot on tech. So for me, this is like my 11th or 12th year in Cannes, I felt the focus was on tech more than creativity.
I think there is a dichotomy there. I was sitting in a meta session, and of course it was about the Oculus and immersive experience and virtual world. And everybody out there on the stage was actually talking about how great it is to be in Cannes physically. And they were saying, oh, it's so great to meet all of you. See, of course we were talking about virtual reality. Yes, it's the future. You see a lot of... But everybody was actually very happy being physically there to be able to talk about the virtual future. Now, so there is something which Cannes has done. I mean, like this year, getting the congregation back again. I feel people have realized how much they were physical contacts and physical, interactions matter. And I think there is a kind of, you can see that in the work also reflecting. So the pandemic has, definitely, if you think that there is a work sans pandemic, there is actually the pandemic's effect and its filter is seen everywhere. Whether it's in the kind of ideas we've seen, the kind of realizations brands have, the brands which are talking about here and now, some we are trying to struggle to survive in this environment. Everywhere there's an impact and reflection of the pandemic time. So you see a lot of, as Samir just talked about, it's not only about talking good, great things, about doing good and great things. So from talking to doing, to walk the talk is what pandemic has told you. Because people are very vulnerable. And I think when the consumer is very vulnerable, they remember what you said. That's the human nature. That when you are in a vulnerable state, whatever you were told, it echoes. It stays in your head. So when you to think of an idea, and when I sit the creative teams, I say, remember what you're talking right now will be remembered by people. Because what your posturing was, what your stand was, how you stood by them in these times is a very, very important. So you can see those reflections of those things there. There are some very, focused ads, like you see Heineken's, the vaccine, sort of old people getting it and inspiring young people. You can see that. You can see Penny, the department store, that campaign. And see, so on and so forth, if you see, there is a certain reflection of what we have gone through. Like you're saying, Mom, don't stay at home. By your staying at home, am I missing out on life? Now there is another way. So of course there will be creative takes on that.
Yeah.
So that is there at the heart of it. And I think people have realized that the brands have to be meaningfully playing a role in our lives.
Society.
And all the brands which are, and some are jarring also. See, at the same time, the lesson for marketers to learn is that it should emanate from some truth. It cannot be just, for the time being, I've taken a posturing and I've never ever, stood for in that in my DNA, and it's not a manifestation of what I am, but it's an opportunistic posturing. That's also something which have to caution ourselves against. So these are the like coming to what we did in our campaign, which is Shagun Ka Lifafa. It's a very simple idea of making a Shagun Ka jo lifafa hota hai, making that into a kind of a form, a bank account form, which reaches out to these women. We normally would not have access to the bank forms and how to go and do it. And that 1 rupee coin which comes attached, with that you can open an account. So it's a very hugely empowering, So in nutshell, I think sustainability, empowerment, all these issues, all those things been the highlight. Apart from technology, we can talk later about.
Yeah, sure.
Across the world, women lack access to financial services. In a ranking of 156 countries, India ranked 140. In poorer households, it's even worse. Traditionally, men are in charge of the household finances. They oversee most monetary aspects, including access to the bank account. As a result, women have accepted their role not to be financially independent, without realizing the consequences.
आदमी ये सब देख लेते, हमारा क्या है, कुछ चाहिए तो मांग लेते हैं.
Ujjivan, a small finance bank that caters only to the financially weaker sections, wanted to change this. So we went to the very start, the day of their wedding. Shagun, a tradition of giving coins as part of cash gifts to a newlywed couple. In a special envelope called Shagun Ka Lifafa. These specially designed envelopes come with an attached 1 rupee coin and are readily available across the country. We transform these Shagun Ka Lifafas into account opening forms. All she had to do is fill the form and deposit just that 1 rupee coin to open a bank account. These transformed envelopes were made freely available in shops where they have always been stocked. And Shagun Ka Lifafas made their way to weddings across India, empowering 232,000 women towards financial equality.
I'd like to come to you now, Ajay. Firstly, many congratulations on winning the Grand Prix, 3 Grand Prix for India. I think in a total of 4 Grand Prix for the delegation, 3 Grand Prix from Densu. So very well done. I think it's our highest Grand Prix count, at least so far as I can remember. So coming to this point about doing good and doing good for business.
Right.
There's been a lot of talk about this for a long time. We've been talking about having meaningful campaigns, doing good. But why is it that today almost every brand wants to position themselves as an NGO? Why can't we just make a funny ad that sells the product? And actually, this time in Cannes, for the first time, P&G's Mark Pritchard pointed it out, saying maybe we need to focus on business first and why our business do good instead of focusing on good and sustainable goals and all of that and forgetting about business. And in a way, actually, I quite agree with him. Why do brands need to take the NGO route? Why can't they just do their own business well, serve us better as customers and improve their product?
So Sonali, I think Samir pointed that out. I think the new breed of consumer, the new so-called Gen Z consumer, the new generation, is extremely aware and very, very sensitive about these, about these sustainability and about the environment and about doing good for the world. Like he said, they've been taught right from school. So brands can, and those are the consumers. So the brands have to talk to the consumers in their own language. And while I agree, I mean, some of us from the older generation would possibly find it a little bit of a fatigue factor that, everything, like in the early days, I remember there used to be a separate public service category. Now everything seems to be that.
Exactly.
But that's where the world has moved. And, and you say, why not focus on business? Brands are focusing on business. I mean, this is business because this generation is where the business is coming from. So I think that is the reason that so much of brand purpose and like those 3 bottom lines that Samir spoke about. That's where all of this is coming from.
And what would you say about the kind of tech focus this can has had in particular. Everybody's talking about the Web3, Meta, crypto, NFTs. That's the conversation. Do you think we're in the right direction, or do you think we're getting very overwhelmed by the tech?
No, I think it's just evolution. I think the world moves on, and technology is moving the world forward, and that's where everyone is going. That's where the consumers are going. So if the advertising and communication and the marketing industry has to talk to its consumers, it has to find where they've gone, and it has to reach them there, right? And that's why there is so much of talk of technology. That's why the buzzword metaverse now, everyone's talking about the metaverse, because that's where presumably the kids are going to be very soon, and that's going to open up a whole new economic kind of a system, apparently some say even larger than the real economy. So it's all very exciting. It sometimes gets a little overwhelming, but new things are always good, and it's been happening for years. Like earlier we used to write radio spots, and Prasoon was probably the greatest radio spot writer in the country.
And he won a Grand Prix for Happy Dent, which was just a funny ad.
So and then we went on print advertising, all of that. But when film came in, some of the stalwarts of the written word fell by the wayside because that was a new medium. And now what we have is this new tech, which is an even more fundamental shift, because this is not moving from print to film. It's a far bigger leap.
And are
it's
we
a far
equipped
more
as India to take on this new tech?
Why not? Of course we are.
No, not why not, but are we?
No, we are.
Okay.
We are, because, see, for instance, the adoption of mobile phones, smartphones, we've just jumped a generation and moved straight into, the mobile economy. So, of course, we are very well equipped to move with the new, the tech sort of revolution that is upon us.
Fair enough. Josie, I'll move to Josie now. You've been on several juries, and you also gave a session here in Cannes, and you're a regular speaker here. If I had to ask you to juxtapose the global work we're seeing with the Indian work, and please be candid, do you think we have a long way to go in terms of catching up with the kind of sophistication and nuances being used, or do you think we're at par?
I don't know about the word sophistication, but I'll tell you what I'm finding, which is equalized. I'll tell you what is equalizing us, if not more, is that the theme which I picked up from this whole thing was radical action. I'm seeing radical action at play, and the best way to represent it was what happened on the first day when a Greenpeace guy jumped on stage, okay? And he turned Cannes into his influencer. So if next year they should enter it for influencer and win it, because they made Cannes the influencer. So that radical action is what I'm seeing with the work, whether it is the work that Ajay and his team have done, which is resurfacing a truth through tech. So tech was a medium, but if you look at what Lost Class is,
yes,
that's also radical action, but there's no tech in it, right? It's intent, and it's a prank that turns into a message.
Yes.
So I'm seeing that across a lot of the work that is rising to the top. And even in a small, humble sort of way, even the work we did for Share the Load is radical action, because they're a woman in a society where the wife rarely, gets back at her husband, takes him on and shows him the shit he's done through the day. And I find that impatience of action and change on the rise. There's an impatience that's coming, and tech is probably the fastest way to manage that impatience, but there are other ways as well. So that's what I see, and I don't see the difference between India and the world. In fact, the world is going to look at India saying, what happened here? Wherever I met people, they said, my God, what's happening in India? You guys are just dominating the show. So I think we're on an incredible wicket, but I just feel that radical action is the theme.
What's wrong? All okay? Come कमल, do you realize कि आज क्या हुआ? आज मेरे पास सिर और अमन के घर जाने का बिल्कुल टाइम नहीं था। हाँ, मैं बस 5 मिनट में मेल भेज रही हूँ। मैं घर पहुंच ही रही हूँ। हाँ, बिल्कुल हो जाएगा।
नए लोग हैं, मिल लेते हैं ना।
I had so much to do. Relax. मैंने तुम्हें कहा भी, पर just acted like my time didn't matter.
Hi, I'm Kamal. My wife Seema. हम लोग ऊपर रहते हैं।
I'm Sid.
I'm Aman. Hi.
Hi.
अंदर आइए ना।
हम बस नाश्ते की तैयारी करते हैं। Please have some.
अमन फर्स्ट क्लास पोहा बनाता है। अंदर आइए ना।
Come.
या प्लीज दिस वे।
चाय लेंगे या कॉफी? चाय?
चाय। तुम उनका घर देख रहे थे और
बाथरूम में रखा है एरिएट। ओके।
मैं उन्हें I suddenly realized that
यार चाय बना दे यार।
we don't have what they have. मैंने तुम्हें बताने की कोशिश भी की, पर देखो साथ में कैसे काम करते हैं। तुमने मेरी बात समझी नहीं।
इसमें क्या है? जब मैं और अविनाश कॉलेज में साथ रहते थे ना, तो हम भी सारा काम बांट के ही करते थे।
और जब चाय गिरी, थैंक यू।
Oh my God! I'm so sorry. It's okay. I'm really sorry.
Don't worry, we'll take care of it.
सिर्फ मुझे ही सब कुछ करना पड़ता है। I have been thinking कि अगर सिर और अमन एक साथ काम कर सकते हैं, तुम अविनाश के साथ एक साथ काम बांट के करते थे, तो मेरे साथ क्यों नहीं? मतलब तुमने मुझे अपने बराबर समझा नहीं ना? You ever see me as your equal?
Very basic question as a layperson. There's so much of tech that's being talked about, and I understand that this generation is digital native, so it's very easy for them to understand the language. But the consumer, the paying consumer, is above 40, where you actually have money to buy. And I don't think they're that savvy, to actually get into the metaverse. And so, are marketers thinking about this, that the audience that is actually going to buy your stuff may not be as digitally savvy as the younger generation?
Yeah, I may not be the best guy for this, to be honest with you, but you may be talking about distribution when we speak about these things. We're not talking communication so much, because in communication you're talking to everyone.
Yes,
and like Kaisun said, if there is a truth that needs to be revealed and has to be presented in a way that people say, yeah, you understand me, I follow you. It doesn't matter whether you do it through tech or any other way. So I think the tech is the distribution system in the e-commerce world that you're talking about.
Absolutely. Rana, you're the only suit that I have on the panel. So if you can talk to me a little bit about the kind of pressures, the advertising business is facing, and what is the client sentiment today? What are marketers asking you to do in terms of giving you more bang for the buck?
So Sonali, I think you've got two questions there, right? So I think the biggest challenge we are facing, and this is not about talent and why are we not attracting talent and all. I think one of the biggest challenges we are facing is to keep them together, right? Because I think I keep telling all my clients, every single marketer, all my friends, I was sitting with somebody who's very close to me. I think we've done a superhuman job in the last 2 years. Superhuman. I think as an agency, I'm very proud of advertising and the way we've supported every single client in the last 2 years, because we were working from home. You must get it. We can't work from home. So we need to sit together. We need to crack ideas together. We need to jam. You can just sit with Prasoon and Prasoon will give me 3 ideas which may not, it will be for anything. It happens like that. So I think that's one big thing, and I think I remind my clients that please understand that this is the biggest thing. So you need to start getting back to that partnerships that we've started building over the last 2 years. It's not that, okay, 2 saal ho gaya, so let's move forward. So I think that's something which we are trying to get is because, the people are a bit disillusioned about what has happened. Some want to work from home, some want to work from Goa, somebody wants to work from the hills, it's quite chaotic right now. So that's one big challenge we are facing is to ensure inspired creativity, if I may use that, we get back to that kind of a thing where people start working, we get our ideas back. So like I keep always telling you, let's not put pressure. Give us 1 more year, give this industry 1 more year to bounce back. We need to come back, we need to start working towards it. You're talking about cans and work and all, there's some great work, but it's okay work. You know what I'm saying? Because, we must understand the last 2 years was completely different. I think the way clients are looking at us and the way clients are working, if that's your other question, I think, they're naturally asking for newer stuff. They're naturally asking what else can we do, because I think it's become a challenge for everybody. The challenges are about how do you, it's not about the young audience or the old audience, it's about loyalty, it's about brand saliency. I was just sitting, again, equity. We were discussing an equity study for 30 minutes, that's it. How do you improve equity among a certain target audience? I think it's becoming very challenging. Okay, the audience is probably, it's fine. Tech is great, but it is the power of idea. So tech is a platform, metaverse or otherwise. I think I'm personally aware of what's going on in that because we are trying to launch it in the country in a very big way. It's just not profitable. As of now, nobody has cracked the model of how do you make metaverse profitable. Nobody knows. Our global teams don't know. We are discussing every day. But yeah, it's a good thing to have, so we'll do it. But how do you go and sell it to Samir and say, Samir, this is what we want to do? And Samir will say, okay, tell me what is the ROI. It's good to have, but so it's back to the idea. So it is still that, and I think the clients are also smart enough to understand that dhanda hai, aur jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai is what we always say. So you have to be on the right places at the right time. It's the idea which is still going to sell. I think we need to just ensure that people don't get confused with the messaging. That chase this, chase NFTs, chase this. No. Come back. Where's the idea? Then figure out the platform. That is all available in the ecosystem. You want to crack something in the digital world? India is very, very smart. You want to do something in this world? We are smart. So I think it's going to be a good game for the next 12 months to get back. And I completely agree with what Josie is saying. I think we are on the right track. I think, conversations around India is far more positive is what I'm picking up. Yeah. It's not about, what, no. It's good. It's good. It's a good conversation to have. And I think we are on the right track. We just need to be at it.
Sure. Let me come to you, the youngest on the panel. Atit, and a startup. It's been, I think, your second year in Cannes, first with Levers and now with Byju's. What are your observations? You've heard all the veterans speak, but as a marketer who's come here and soaked up all the creative global gyan, what is your view?
No, it's been great to understand what everybody else is doing, while we get a lot of understanding and importance for the work which we are doing in India, because there are multiple conversations, multiple panels which are happening. But coming over here and seeing the work, the one thing which has really, or two things which actually struck me very well, that tech has now become an enabler. Everybody is talking about the human connection going away, what is going to happen. I go back in 2014, we were just moving from a feature phone to a smartphone world. Everybody, 2014 Cannes' only conversation is that, are we ready, are brands ready, marketeers ready, agency partners ready to shift from a feature phone to a device which will have multiple things. But today, if you see, everything is mobile first. Exactly the same thing is happening. If you walk around, everybody talks about Meta and Web 3.0 and all those things. But you will require great storytellers. What are you going to tell in that meta world? Somebody has to put that story, somebody has to put that narrative. And you have folks across the globe, and some of them are sitting on this table on this panel right now. So the thing is, while tech is going to be there, it's not going to overshadow anything. It's a great enabler, and we will require, not today, but even 20 years down the line, great storytellers, what we have always seen. To create those stories, only thing is, it will be in a virtual world. But you still have the consumer, you still have the platform. So tech is going to be the enabler, it's not going to be overshadowing. That's my one big learning. The second thing which I have seen is, and that's something which I think we don't do it well, all the case studies which I have seen, it's the focus is on the idea. The focus is not about the distribution of that idea. Media is coming later. It is not media first. Every brand which I have seen who have won the award, it is message before the media. So messaging is the core. Idea amplification is the core. It's not about amplifying through media channels. If you have a strong idea, automatically it will start reaching out to people. More often than not, we at times end up talking about, okay, this is the idea. We lose focus on the idea and then put X amount of plans to amplify it and reach Y number of people. But a lot of work is about that core strong idea, and it automatically gets amplified.
Sameer, if I can come back to you, and maybe you as a senior marketer can explain to me about this great focus on reaching, the end consumer who is a young consumer. But isn't that a little odd, because they really don't have money? So it's the older guys who have money and will buy your product, especially as you look at, focusing on more premium products and going up the value chain. It's your real purchasing power comes, late 30s, 40s, 50s, you have more money, I hope, So I don't understand why is there such a big rush to reach this young pool, which may be different but don't have money.
There's a couple of things. One is about reach. I think reach is a word which is, dying in a certain way, because what you're talking about is you need engagement. You might see something on television, but if you don't engage with the content, forget any other medium, you're not going to do much with it. The brand, the activity, anything, you need to actually engage with it for it to register. So that's one part of it. So a lot of, I think what we have seen and what we have seen is winning, and we have seen is, I think the emphasis is on meaningful engagement and not on pure reach. Pure reach we can get by getting onto IPL.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't need to really come to Cannes to figure that out, right? So that's one part of it. Second thing is younger people not having money. I think the way you have to look at it is younger people have great influence. They have fantastic influence in every family. You try buying a car without taking your kid's opinion. Well, hey, the kid will have an opinion on the kind of things. So the car is a very obvious, large piece, but they do influence every household purchase that is there. Second is in the categories where they are obviously salient, which are youth categories, out of home consumption, they tend to spend more money, right? So depending on the category, there is influence, and the influence always is there. So the shopper might be the mother, but the child will always say that I want to eat this, or I want to use that soap, or I want to, put a certain kind of fragrance, and so on and so on. I want to wear, and they're very clear of what they want to wear, and so on. And parents do in India, especially, indulge them. So even if they are young, they have influence, and in whatever strata they might be.
Okay.
And we have always chased the young across the world. It's not, because we know that's where change comes from. Change comes from the young. Anything new, that's the first place where the port of call is there. And that's where newer brands, newer ideas, everything would more likely to, but then you scale up. Today, we're talking about, in the business you are in, which television, you will find middle-aged people quite comfortable with Netflix. They're watching anything from Turkish dramas to Korean soaps. I mean, who's the consumer?
Sure.
So it's changing, and it's changing in front of us, and we are seeing it. And you go and you live in Bombay, and when you walk into your building, probably is very high. Your security guard is looking at his phone and watching content.
Yes.
He's consuming content. He's getting influenced by that content. His attitudes, other things, is changing. He's got more exposure than maybe what his father had at his age.
Sure.
So it's a bit of a chat.
Prasoon, what is the kind of pressures agencies are facing now? I know Sameer doesn't believe in changing his agency, but you're a species that is getting extinct soon. But the need to have multiple girlfriends, to put it loosely, right, and keep experimenting and be infidel is the norm. How is that working for the industry? And secondly, I want to touch upon, which I want to ask everybody else also, is the remuneration bit. We've been talking about getting the right remuneration for your work for a long time. Has something moved in that direction?
Well, on remuneration bit, I would say no, we haven't moved that far. I think we should definitely advertise it, and that is a fundamental question in how much you value ideas and how much you value craft and how much you value thinking. I think because it's so intangible, it's so sort of unquantifiable that in the ether space you sort of price it the way you want. So that will always be a debate, and I think more sensitivity as we go ahead is required in pricing hugely. I think we need to actually put our heads together, because it's not about one person up another. It's actually about the kind of work we'll do, how the brands will progress. Because in short term, yes, you will get the benefit of bad pricing. Maybe somebody gets it. When he doesn't, he's a loyal client, as you said. But some do, but that's short term. That's not good for anyone, because you'd have less talent getting attracted to the industry. Eventually, it will affect the quality of ideas, the things, the kind of work we'll do. It's all linked all together. So I think the pricing is an important thing you have touched upon. You should do a separate session how to improve it actually, and come out with a solution, because we all are looking for the right solution there, because these are fundamental questions to the profession.
Yeah.
And see, another thing which everybody is talking about, I think he very eloquently talked about storytelling, and I agree with you that eventually, you would require storytellers. Like what are we? We are just bodies, but you give us names, and then you give us narratives, and we become people. So that's how products and brands are. So brands are narratives, and we'll keep on writing stories, and you'll find different forms of storytellers. We used to have storytellers who used to tell stories to the kings for 15 hours, 18 hours, at a stretch, and those were also entertaining. They were also engaging. That's the only way that they knew of storytelling at that time. But one important change which we must know, and I think take cognizance of, is that technology also impacts the way your mind is wired. For example, take the attention span of a human race right now has declined to 8 seconds, which is 1 second less than the goldfish. Now, which is not something which will not impact the way people consume content or think or interact. So I think the kind of stories and the way you will tell will definitely change because of the technology fundamentally impacting human behavior.
The point.
And that's the reason it's important that when we say, yes, this probably people are not consuming it the same way as I am consuming it, or I am thinking about it. There is a technology out there which is an interface, and that is fundamentally impacting the human thinking. So those things probably have to be thought about. We should. Another thing which I was observing, and we were talking about, Ajay was talking about that these kids today, and you also talked about, Samir, that kids are more conscious towards the kind of you are a do-gooder as a brand, you're doing well. I think another thing which social media and connectivity has done to us is a kind of consumption guilt, which you suddenly feel. You're exposed to the stark realities of the humankind. You know what is happening in the other part of the world much more. That as I consume this, someone else does not even get a share of it. I think today's youngsters are getting a glimpse of that, and they're also feeling a little conscious. So from conscious to consciences is where the consumption is moving.
If you could pass it to Ajay, let me get your view on remuneration and how, as industry leaders, you have to be more aggressive and united to make that change. Because if discounting is the game, we're never going to up our game. So throw some light on that. And just to what Prasoon said about the younger generation being more conscious, when you say that, it's very heartening to hear. But look at our world. Look at what's happening. We're becoming more selfish. We're becoming more exclusive, definitely not inclusive. So much of hate on social media. So while you're pointing out that yes, we're evolving, and this is very heartening to hear that we feel guilty about consumption. It's not really being seen in the real world globally. We've just regressed as humanity.
So Sonali, I feel equally strongly about agency remuneration as Prasoon does, and I'm sure as all agency people do, and a lot of marketers and clients do as well. I have had very senior clients ask me, why don't you make more money? Like why does a third type of a vendor make more money than an agency does? So it is. I don't really have an answer to that. Maybe it's a matter of uh, pressures of the bottom line and everyone. All right, I'll pass it on to you. So there are these pressures, but yes, it does need to go northwards. It does need to go up, because it's a business about ideas. Ideas come from people, and good people come when you pay them good money. It's as simple as that. And other industries are taking our people away simply because we cannot pay them as well as they can, right? Despite the fact that I think advertising is probably the most satisfying, profession for a creative person, you know. So you have someone like a Prasoon, again, I gave his example, who's a lyricist and who's a film writer, and yet he still loves advertising, and which is why he's still there.
That's true.
You know, and a lot of people do that because what we do, what a filmmaker does, for instance, is create a dream and make a sort of a dream world. People pay money, watch that spectacle for a while and leave. But what we do as advertising creatives is mold real behavior. We are molding reality, right? If so, we do a good campaign, things happen. We did this unfiltered history tour. People are talking about it.
The British Museum is a public institution dedicated to human history, art and culture. Come discover over 80,000 works from around the world here in London. You are now viewing the Guigal Shield. Captain James Cook was a British defender.
We're now looking at the Guigal Shield, which was taken from my people.
Collections in the British museums are premised on a simple idea. I'm proud of what my grandfather stole from yours.
How these objects are treated is our decision. Even if we can't look after them, that's our choice. It's not the British Museum's choice.
How do you loan to me what is mine?
You are saying to me we are not knowledgeable enough to teach people about our history and our culture.
If they started giving back stuff, they really just have empty halls there.
We're now looking at the Guigal Shield.
The Rosetta Stone. Looking at Hoja Cananaya.
There might be repatriation of some of those artifacts, right?
Then it will build creative effectiveness for sure.
Yeah,
if the repatriation happens.
Yeah, we are hoping. So there is talk about that. So what we do is we make a difference in the real world, and you need talent for that, and talent comes for money. Therefore, we need to be remunerated better. I can pass it on to Josie to ask him how.
I'm going to go back to radical action. Yeah, because when I started in the industry and the client in my first presentation didn't buy the idea, I threatened to jump out of the window. And they said they couldn't help but sort of buy into it. Sometimes you got to go beyond logic. And I think some CEO has to jump out of the window. Something has to happen. You know, there's got to be some physicality that breaks this bullshit of logic. Then it shows that something is wrong in the system. And I know I'm sort of saying it in jest, But it has to be some form of action. Otherwise, the stranglehold of logic is not letting people realize the value of what is truly advertising offering brands, society, culture, etc. So I think, yes, we've got to look at it again, but like the Greenpeace guy who jumped on stage, we'll have to jump somewhere.
Rana has, he's talking about the CEO jumping off. I want your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, again, it's, if you ask me, has the needle moved and all, I think, yes, it has.
It has.
It has maybe not moved the way we are looking at it, but for example, it's like I keep saying, you're a brand, right? So if you are a brand and the agency is a brand, you need to, if you're charging a premium, then bloody well go ahead and charge a premium. You know what I mean? And if a client is not going to pay, then you don't take it. So I think for some of us, at least the way, at least my group functions and reckons with it, we are very clear. We are not going to work in a certain way. I've seen the world from the other side also. I've been in another network throughout my life, and that's not what we are doing. I think it's very clear that, some of the clients that we work with, the partners that we have across the board, whether it's media, creative, or health, these are some of the best clients we have. And yes, they're giving us what we want. When they don't give, we say no. And we are pushing back because I think there's a new brigade of people who are walking and who are walking the talks. I think, a lot of us have just changed the way we want to change. I remember we were discussing this earlier also, that, you're going to see a lot of difference coming out and we are going to push it back. So, it's not about fights. It's about like, if I'm not going to get the talent, then I can't sign you. Because if you're going to pay me X and you'll tell me that I'm going to, give you more brands and I'm going to then add this to you, I can't service you because you do need a certain fee. And we are seeing the big difference, which is why, we love global brands, right? We keep saying if a global client comes in, it's so much better. Why? Because you get global fees. But that's not the right approach, right? So I think even the clients are getting it because like I told you, talent is diminishing. It's not like the clients are not getting it, that the talents are going to go out into other streams. They'll go into the OTT platform, they'll move out. So, if you don't attract the talent back, or at least retain them, like Ajay said about Prasoon, Prasoon is still part of this industry while he's doing all of that, while these guys are saying, I need to go out because I get better paid. So I think, I think there is a conversation that's happening and a bit more of transparency is better. Pick up the phone, the clients are your friends, most of them we know one-on-one. We tell them upfront, straightforward, hey CMO, hey CEO, ye nahi hone wala. You have to understand we can't do it. Of course, there's one dreaded word which nobody picked up, a word called procurement. Yeah. So I'm not going to speak much on that because that will take it somewhere else. But that's the word. I will request the clients to keep a track on that because what a lot of clients are doing, and it's not a generalized statement, they let procurement discuss the scope of work given by the client. It cannot happen. Scope of work, people, talent has to be decided by the marketing team. Procurement is just for paperwork or finish. I don't let my finance or CFO go and sit with the client and discuss people, right? She or he doesn't understand. So that's something I think you must keep track that if this has to change, then that procurement word has to go back a bit. It's a job, I respect that job, but procurement cannot decide people. Procurement cannot decide talent. The client decides, the marketing team decides.
Fair enough. On that note, I think this has been quite a strong discussion. A lot of points have come out. And I like the confidence that you're saying that, the advertising world has suddenly had the confidence to say no if you're going to underpay me. I hope we can continue that given that we're going to be entering very tough times with inflationary pressures and, the economy softening across the world and some people predicting a recession by the end of the year. But very good, stellar showing by the Indian delegation here in Cannes. I haven't seen such performance and such optimism about the country, before. So kudos to all of you, and here's to a stellar 2022 and 2023. Thank you so much.
Thank you.